Raise a hand if you're familiar with lumpia. Great. Crunchy, Moorish, Filipino spring roll filled with pork and vegetable, the life of every Filipino party. Raise a hand if you're familiar with ube, the cartoonishly purple yam that can be turned into sugar biscuits, cakes, pastries, or even ice cream, and is taking the upper division at Avenues by storm. Come by 8th floor south to try some. Raise a hand if you're familiar with the beautiful beaches of Boracay, Cebu, and Palawan. Stunning white beaches, crystal clear waters, perfect summer getaway. Or maybe you're in my 9th grade integrated science class. I see some students here. One way or another, you probably had a connection or an interaction with the Philippines or Filipino people. After all, there's an estimated 4 million Filipinos and Filipino Americans in the United States of America in 2018. But our country is more than its good food and tourist spots. There's more to the story of our beautiful nation. The Philippines is an archipelago west of the Pacific Ocean and in the region called the Pacific Ring of Fire. Being in this location means that there's an average of 20 tropical cyclones that will enter the Philippine area of responsibility, with 8 to 9 of them making landfall annually. Being in the Pacific Ring of Fire means that there are hundreds of volcanoes in the country, with 24 of them classified as active. Recently, our country has been one of the most affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, with thousands of lives lost and many more hospitalized. In fact, in January 2020, the province of Batangas had to deal with the eruption of Taal volcano, the destruction of Typhoon Ulysses, all while dealing with the global pandemic. Tough luck. I guess to a more common standard, you might think that we are not the luckiest nation. You might even assume that the Filipinos would be a miserable bunch. Yet for some strange reasons, Filipinos are always depicted on media as happy and smiling. I don't know how you could smile while half of your body is submerged in flood water. Time and again, one word has been used to describe the Filipino people: resilient. Quick to recover from sufferings, happy in the middle of their hardships. In fact, in the recent World Happiness Report, the Philippines ranked 61st among 149 nations and ranked happier compared to most of our East and Southeast Asian neighbors. Surfing flood waters, having a drink with friends in the middle of the flood, smiling in the middle of all these devastations. I think I could call that resilient. My name is Ryan Abrantes, and I'm a teacher at the upper division at Avenues, and I was born and raised in Valenzuela City, Philippines. But my parents are both from Hindang, Southern Leyte. Why am I telling you this? There are actually more than 120 languages in the Philippines. My siblings and myself grew up speaking Filipino, but both my parents speak a different regional language, Bisaya. In this talk, I will use the Visayan language as a lens to discuss and reflect about the resilience of the Filipino people. I hope that at the end of this talk, we will understand how the Filipinos are this resilient and develop the resilience that lies within us. I guess let's start by defining resilience. Resilience is the ability to cope and thrive in difficult situations and sufferings. It's the ability to bounce back after a setback in life. For a whole nation, it could be the ability of a country to maintain social order in the middle of a crisis. Growing up, my mother will always say the word Puhon, or Puhon, which roughly means, God willing, we can wish, or let's pray. She will tell me this when I'm stressed out because I have exams coming up, or when I'm doing some wishful thinking, going, I hope that we can have a bigger house or more food in our table. My mom would say, kapag nakapagtapos ka ng pag-aaral at nakahanap ng magandang trabaho, puhon-puhon, which translates to, When you finish your studies and find a good job, it will happen. Even now, in the middle of a global pandemic, when traveling has been very difficult, my mom would say, makakauwi ka rin. Pagdarasal natin, puhon, puhon. Someday you'll be able to come home for a holiday and visit us. We will pray for it. Puhon, puhon. Adding puhon to a statement almost converts it to a form of prayer. This hopeful encouragement, it's almost a form of prayer, is an act of resilience building by my mother. It gives me a hope that someday I'll be able to buy that house, or someday I'll be able to go home for a holiday and see them, or someday we'll be able to achieve our dreams. Puhon puhon relates to the religiosity of the Filipino people. It correlates to the studies that relates a sense of spirituality, destiny, or religiosity as a factor that builds resilience. Being a predominantly Christian country, Filipinos are known to turn to their faith in the middle of crisis. Pray. Wait on God's help. It will arrive. Puhon, puhon. Personally, I've seen more Filipinos go to church after a storm or even during a storm. So the first word is puhon, puhon, or resilience through a sense of spirituality, destiny, or religiosity. The second word is padayon, which could roughly translate as onward, keep going, or carry on. You would not only hear this from Visayan parents, but also if you're a student or a faculty of the University of the Philippines. Padayon is what you'll hear when you got good marks on that test and you're happy and excited to show it to your parents, and a Visayan parent would go, "Oh, ang galing nga, padayon," which means, "That's good, onward." Or when you're trembling, probably some of my students would relate, because you didn't do that well on that test, and you're scared to show it to your parents. After a lecture about being prepared, being proactive, a Visayan parent would go, "Kaya mo naman eh, padayon lang. I know you can do this. Keep going. You've succeeded and achieved your goals. Keep moving forward. You struggled and stumbled. Pick yourself up and keep moving forward." Padayon is a sense of mission. The American Psychological Association relates or attributed a sense of purpose as a strong builder of resilience. Padayon is a conceptualization of what is beyond, what is ahead. A purpose to keep on going because there's a bigger dream, there's a bigger goal to achieve. Last but not the least is the word magtinabangan, which roughly translates to help others. It could be related to the concept or idea of bayanihan, which is literally the house movers of Philippines in the olden days. You literally had to carry the house together and transfer it to a different place. Can't do it by yourself. Magtinabangan relates to the sense of community, which not only is attributed to personal resilience, but also to national resilience. When I was in 4th grade, Typhoon Ising, international name Olga, devastated the country with huge amounts of floods and rain. I remember having to stay at the roof of our studio apartment while water literally engulfs the whole neighborhood. I remembered praying hard that the books I placed in designated sealed buckets are still dry so that I can still use them the following week when classes resume. I was praying that the bucket would just float around in the house and be safe. If you think about it, it would have been a traumatic experience for me. But I found some light in it. Seeing the situation, our landlord, who lives in a bigger house with a second floor, invited all the kids in the neighborhood, in the compound, to stay in the second floor of their house while the rest of the family salvage what they can from the house. Thinking about it, I felt a sense of security as my neighbors band together so that we can have some food to eat. Someone's potatoes managed to stay dry. Someone's rice miraculously remained dry. Someone's soy sauce bottle survived. Someone's cans of sardines are still available. Putting this together, we cooked lunch for everyone and ate it while still on top of the roof, waiting for the water to subside. Magtinabangan is a reminder that it's difficult to build resilience by yourself. You need to have neighbors to cook that lunch and eat that lunch with on top of the roof. On the other hand, it is important to remember that resilience is not a simple concept or a simple trait that you develop by just praying, having a mission, having neighbors. Like all aspects of human behavior, there are lots of social, political elements to be considered in one's development of resilience. Sadly, the narrative that Filipinos are resilient oftentimes can be used against them as an excuse to just put it on the Filipinos to be resilient in the middle of oppression, calamities, or even racism. Because after all, they will survive it anyway. They are a resilient race. It is easy to praise resilience on people who are on top of the roof when you are on your 5th floor of your apartment. We need to remember that talks about resilience must come with discussions about creating a situation or an environment which help build resilience in people. We need to remember that Puhon must come with padayon and magtinabangan. Resilience should be a byproduct of overcoming challenges, not the requirement. People should be expected to be resilient after surviving catastrophes, not be expected to be resilient every time there is a catastrophe. So the 3 words are Puhon, which is resilience through a sense of spirituality, destiny, or religiosity. Padayon, resilience through a sense of purpose or mission. And magtinabangan, resilience through a sense of community. I hope that we can all develop resilience in ways that we are supported. I hope that the Filipino people with a resilient spirit continue to thrive and live safe and prosperous lives. I hope that we can all develop resilience and support those around us to develop it themselves. In the meantime, let's continue with our own personal goals, keep going with our mission, and have faith that we will get there. We will get there. Puhon, puhon. Thank you.